Hey guys, Crash here at North Lake Auto. Little update on that Volvo P80 all-wheel drive unit. I ended up gutting the angle gear unit, just used it as an axle carrier. Got the lady back on the road in front wheel drive only, so she's happy and back taking care of her animals. That's what we do around here. We don't scrap things, we can fix it. Now we're doing a 2019 Subaru Outback. We're putting a Rallitek 2-inch lift on it. It's going to take 2-inch spacers. That's what Rallitek's kit is. This is what the customer asked for. They're kind of going for more of an overlanding build on this. They travel back and forth from Central Oregon to Salem for work, so and there's spacers for the front struts, spacers for the rear struts, some hardware, and some link brackets, brake line extensions, etc. Because you got to extend the rear brake lines when you drop the rear cradle down a little bit, so you can keep the CV axle geometry correct on the back of this thing. You see, it's just a standard Subaru setup. Nothing fancy. It's all stock, other than it's got a little tow hitch on it. We'll be back once this thing's got a little bit of lift on it. So the front's on. Few things that I do and don't like about this lift. What I do like is, if nobody if nobody's ever done this before, they don't have much mechanical skills, it doesn't take much. They are labeled left and right, and you don't go about it like you're looking on at the car. It's like you're sitting in the driver's seat, so left side is the driver's side. That is nice. What I don't like about this is back here is where the subframe right here ties, the front cradle ties into the subframe of the car. Okay, and these are just little spacer pucks that are in there, and then a rigid bracket just to help keep it located. Now, it did not come with spacers. Even this is about a 1/2 inch spacer, so even a 1 inch to go in there and drop this front cradle a little bit would improve the geometry of the CV axles in the front. This has a lot of dropout from the factory, these cars do. It also did not come with any sway bar extended links, so they're sitting at about a 15-degree angle, and it adjusted the position of the sway bar, so it's going to be a little different in the way that it rides and it handles in the front. So a couple things I don't like about it. It would have been nicer if it came with sway bar disconnects and adjustable sway bars, or adjustable links, but that's just me. Now, on the rear, it's the same thing. There is no left and right for the strut spacers, but what they did give you for the rear is all of the brackets, or drop brackets for they call them brackets, they're not, they're just spacers for the subframe. So this one's going to go into the front position, up under here, right up in here, and there's 4 just round ones like this that are going to go right here and right up there, and then there's one, two, three, four smaller ones, which are going to go here, over there, over there, and then one on the far side. And that just keeps this bracket, it's like a trailing arm bracket almost. It keeps it rigid in the rear, keeps your rear end from swaying side to side. It's IFS, so it drops that. So that is nice. But again, it did not come with new sway bar links. So even after we get it all together, if you look at it, the suspension's stretched all the way out right now. And that's what it's going to think that it's doing after it's all put together, even with the spacers in there. So this angle's going to be off a little bit. Would have been nicer to come with some disconnects on here. If you're going to go overlanding with your Subaru, they are very capable of not forebuying, but doing basic overlanding. And I highly suggest, if you're going to do any overlanding in your Subaru or Porsche, all-wheel drive Volvos, the BMW X Series, any of those, invest the money in some sway bar disconnects front and rear. That's actually going to utilize keeping your tires on the ground. The sway bar makes it a little bit more rigid, so as one wheel comes up, that sway bar wants to pull the other side with it up. Okay, and same thing if it drops, if you have dropout, it wants to pull that other side down, but it can't. So this tire, if it goes over a hole, it might be hanging in the air. So with a sway bar disconnect, front and rear, it'll allow this one wheel, say it's going into a hole and the other side's not, it'll let this one wheel over here drop into that hole. And when it drops into that hole, it's going to keep contact. So you're going to be less likely to spin the tires, get stuck. I mean, I know these Subarus, they'll start moving the power around from wheel to wheel, but the more traction you can get, all four wheels, the better. So always invest in sway bar disconnects. It does come with simple just brake line extenders. They bolt in here and it just holds the brake line. A little bit different. It's nothing real fancy to these kits. It is a Portland company, like I said, Rallitek. They make a lot of stuff for Subarus. They are a very great company, and they sell more than just this 2-inch spacer kit. You can actually get their full 2-inch system. Comes with brand new springs, brand new struts, more brackets, a lot more entailed, cost quite a bit more money. I mean, it's a jump of, say, I want to say this was like $700-ish shipped. It jumps up there. You can spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Just depends on what you want to do with overlanding. And you know, you don't have to buy any fancy bumpers when you get into it. Like if you want to do a front bumper on it, or even leave the factory bumper and do like a tube bumper on the front. Really, you can get some 1.5 DOM fairly cheap. Go get one of those $50 Harbor Freight benders. Measure 3 or 4 times before you bend. Even a basic flux core wire feed MIG will work to weld it all together. You can make all your own brackets and bolt it on there. Otherwise, you're going to spend a nice chunk of money for one of those tube bumpers. This car, we did notice right away, it doesn't even have factory skid plates under it. Don't know if it was in an accident at one point in its life and all of them got pulled off, but when the owner is a friend of mine, when he's ready, I can always go ahead and fab up skid plates for this. You're not going to need nothing heavy that's, you know, thick steel or anything like that. Just a real simple aluminum skid plates, bent on a press brake, TIG well on some tabs where needed. nice and clean. You want to keep these cars light. They get great gas mileage. The other thing I didn't like about this, these Subarus, they have a factory camber bolt on the front strut, on the top bolt of the strut where it bolts into the front hub. So it's just a bolt, and it looks like it's pregnant on one end, on one side, and it's smooth, right? You can turn it, and it adjusts your camber in and out. It's not much movement. It's about a quarter of a degree. What I didn't like about this basic kit that they have is it could really use a better camber bolt to give it a little bit more movement to keep this wheel nice and parallel. Because as you come up with the independent front suspension, your camber comes out. Your bottom of your wheel's going to dip in. You'll see it on, like, slow down a Baja truck and watch their tires. It's an independent front suspension. So being able to keep these more parallel, maybe a little bit of camber in at the top, just the tiniest bit after being lifted, will make it feel a lot more stable. If it's kicked in at the bottom, which we got this as straight as they would go on both sides, but with them being, the tires being kicked in a little bit at the bottom, it's going to cause the vehicle to want to wander in the actual ruts of the road, because our roads aren't, you know, constantly maintained. So there's ruts in them. It's going to want to wander a little bit. They say you can fit a 245 65 17 on here. It's got a 225 right now. It might clear, but I have a feeling with the 245 it's going to hit here. It's going to hit here when you're turning. Rub makes some noise, but all in all, unless you get a little bit of a different offset on the wheel, I would go to a 18-inch rim. Go to like a 235, 55 18. More of like a rally look to it. That's what seem to look good when people do these overlanding builds, and they still grip great, and you can air them down a decent amount. So anyways, guys, we'll be back. So final verdict on the Rallitek 2-inch spacer kit. It looks all right. Sits a little bit higher in the back than the front. Like I said, some spacers for the front subframe cradle would have been nice. Better camber bolts than the factory ones that give it a little bit more throw for the camber would have been nice. We ended up having to order some and put them on there just to get the camber corrected in the front. These plates in the back where the strut comes through and bolts on to this lift plate. Rallitek, I don't know if they're doing those lift plates in-house or if they're outsourcing for them, but they're not being clamped in a fixture, and they're just burning them. You can see those heavy welds in there, right? And what that's doing is when they're just burning them together, it's deflecting this plate in the bottom that the strut bolts to. And then they're laser cutting the holes in it. They're not real clean, so the bolts don't want to go through anyhow because the holes aren't clean. So I had to take each rear lift plate. It didn't happen on the front. It's a larger space, so it didn't deflect as bad, but I had to take each rear one and flatten that plate back out and clean the holes up. Other than that, I did notice that on these Outbacks, the left rear cradle bolt for the rear subframe cradle it doesn't have as much depth that it can go in, so they send you out 4 new bolts that are extended for your subframe to bolt it in, replace those 4 heavy bolts in this piece. And one bolt's like a ½ inch too long. And you can keep trying to press it in there, but it's going in, even with the impact on it, it won't go any further, and it starts messing up the threads on that bolt. So we had to screw a couple nuts down. We trimmed about a ½ inch off of the bolt, re-beveled the edge of it, ran the nuts up to make sure that the threads were clean and off of it, ran a thread tap over it, and then put it in there to take care of that. But all in all, I would say for an average guy and one of their buddies, or even a girl and one of her friends on a weekend, a few hours, you can install this lift yourself. I myself, if this was my vehicle, I would recommend the full entire system from Rallitek. It comes with new struts, springs. I believe it comes with sway bar disconnects front and rear. Like I went over earlier, the sway bar and the front, the links are at a pretty weird angle, so we'll see how that goes in the future. I drove it out. It drives really nice. Still drives like a brand new car. Use factory suspension on it. Nice and straight down the road. You know, most cars pull slightly to the right from the factory, but this one didn't. It does follow the crown of the road, so all roads are crowned from the center out, but for the most part, it drives perfectly straight. The alignment paperwork was killer on this thing. Even after we put it back together, I just took rough measurements and used a basic camber leveler that bolts onto the hub to check the camber on it. Then ran it over to the alignment shop. They didn't have to do any alignment on it. They said it was right on. So, I mean, just with the basics, you could do this on a weekend. All in all, it's a decent kit. If you're going on a budget and you just want that little bit of a lift, it's perfect for you. But like I said, if it were me and this were my car, I would get the full system. You know, it's like my FJ over there. It's only got a 3-inch and 33s, but I did a full Bilstein system. Nice Outback springs. And I've got 270,000 miles on it. And we're starting to get soft, so that thing's getting ready to get a brand new suspension system put in it. Yeah, it's like 348,000 miles on that thing. I bought it with 60,000. I put hard miles on it, jumped it, blasted through the dunes at 100 miles an hour. I've taken it everywhere my old Jeep Rubicon went, and my buddy's FJ that he just put lift pucks on is limited with the stock suspension on it. But so if you want to do it right, you're doing an overlanding build, something just to go play with, invest in the full system. It's a bit more money, but it's definitely worth it. So if you're in the Central Oregon area and you want us to do a overland build for you, we can definitely do that. We don't mark up the cost of our parts like other shops do. They normally mark up their parts 50 to 60% over their cost. We only put a 15 to 20% markup on it, depending on our supplier. Depends on our interest rate when we have to make our monthly payment on that. So that savings on the systems, when we do suspension lifts, lowering jobs, anything like that, gets translated into the bill for the customer. We do not bill hourly. All of our jobs are flat rate. So like this job here, my customer came in, he had a goal in mind of $600 on labor, $700 on the suspension kit, and we actually came in under that window by about 20 bucks. So anyways, most shops you couldn't get this done for that. Another friend of mine went to Les Schwab and got the same system put on their car, and they walked out of there at right around $1,800 after alignment. So we were able to beat them by I'd say about 450 bucks. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. There'll be more to come. We're getting ready to do a custom exhaust system for another customer on a Chevy 2500 short bed 6.0 liter LS. It's going to be an off-road only truck right now. We're just going to be doing the exhaust system, then we'll be doing suspension and all that later. Hi, Shop Cat. It's Mama Cat. Anyways, crash over here at North Lake Automotive. Crash built, crash approved. We'll see ya.